Close your eyes for a moment and picture this. You're standing in front of a mirror. The same face stares back at you, but the eyes look heavier. The fire you once had is dim, and in that quiet moment, you realize you've been living the same year over and over again, same fears, same excuses, same broken promises to yourself. And then you hear it, the ticking of the clock. Each tick is a reminder, not just of time passing, but of life escaping. Because whether you rise or stay stuck, the clock doesn't stop. Another day is gone, another year slips away. Marcus Aurelius warned us, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say, and think he wasn't being dramatic. He was being honest, because one day your story will end. And the question is, will you leave behind a life you're proud of, or a list of regrets? Look around your own life. People you once laughed with are gone. Jobs you thought would last forever have vanished. Dreams you swore you'd chase someday are still waiting. And someday never comes. The Stoics didn't believe in waiting for the right mood or the perfect moment. They knew life doesn't wait. Epictetus taught that we don't suffer because life is hard. We suffer because we expect it to be easy. And while you wait for things to get easier, your potential is dying. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Think about that. You are not running out of life because it's short. You're running out of life because you're spending it on things that don't matter. Comfort, distractions, excuses. So here is the brutal truth. No one is coming to save you, not your friends, not your family, not the universe. Everyone is too busy fighting their own battles. And that should not make you afraid. It should set you free, because it means the power to change has always been yours. Now imagine yourself years from now, older, looking back. Will you smile at the life you built? Or will you whisper, if only I had started when I still had the chance? This is why today I'm giving you 10 brutal Stoic rules. They are not soft words. They are not comfortable lies. They are weapons. They will cut through excuses, break illusions, and force you to face yourself. Some of them will hurt. Good. Because pain wakes you up. Comfort kills you slowly. These rules will not just inspire you for a moment. They will demand something from you. And that demand is exactly what will save you from wasting another year of your life. Say it with me right now. I refuse to waste another year of my life. Let's begin. Number 1. Stop waiting for permission to become yourself. This might be the truth that sets you free, or destroys every excuse you've been holding on to. Probably both. No one is coming to give you permission to become great. There's no authority figure who's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, "You're ready now. Go live your dreams that moment you're waiting for." It doesn't exist. Marcus Aurelius had unlimited power, yet even he admitted, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He understood something we keep forgetting. Waiting for the perfect conditions is nothing more than fear, dressed up as patience. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right time, but really, you're just afraid of what happens if you try and fail. The world is full of people with incredible potential who will die with it still trapped inside them. Why? Because they spent their entire lives waiting for someone else to validate them, to approve their choices, to give them permission to finally be themselves. They lived small lives, not because they were small people, but because they were afraid of taking up space without permission. Epictetus told his students, "If you want to improve, Be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That's revolutionary. He was saying that other people's opinions are the price of admission to your own life. Think about it. You want to start that business. Someone will call you reckless. You want to change careers. Someone will call you irresponsible. You want to set boundaries. Someone will call you selfish. And here's the kicker. They're going to judge you anyway. Play it safe, they'll call you boring. Take risks, they'll call you foolish. Succeed, they'll say you were lucky. Fail, they'll say they knew it all along. You cannot win the game of other people's approval. So, stop playing it. The Stoics practiced something called premeditation of adversity, imagining the worst that could happen and realizing they could handle it. So let's do it right now. What's the worst that happens if you stop waiting for permission? Someone laughs? You fail? You look stupid? And then what? You get up, you try again. That's it. That's the worst case. And it's nowhere near as bad as dying with regret. You already have everything you need inside you. Not eventually. Not when you're smarter, richer, or more prepared. Right now. The version of you that is capable of extraordinary things is already here, suffocating under layers of what will people think and maybe someday. Seneca said it best. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Your fear of judgment is worse than judgment itself. Your fear of failure is heavier than actual failure. You're torturing yourself with imaginary consequences, while real life, your real life, is passing you by. So stop asking for permission and start taking responsibility. When you wait for permission, you give away your power. When you take responsibility, you reclaim it. Every day you wait is a day you choose to stay small. Every day you act is a day you choose to grow. The person you're meant to become doesn't need anyone's approval. They just need you to start. Write this in the comments to claim it as yours. I am enough right now to begin. Number 2, accept that most of your pain is self-inflicted. This is going to hurt, but you need to hear it. Most of your suffering isn't happening to you. It's happening because of you. The situations you're in, the relationships that drain you, the opportunities you've missed, they're not just bad luck. They're the result of choices you made or refused to make. Epictetus said it plainly. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. But we've twisted this wisdom into something weak, something that lets us off the hook. We think it means stay positive or look on the bright side. Nah, it means something far more brutal. You are creating your own prison with your thoughts, your excuses, and your refusal to change. Look at your life right now, honestly. That job you hate. You applied for it. You accepted it. You show up every day. That toxic relationship. You're choosing to stay. Those pounds you want to lose. Every meal is a choice. That dream you talk about but never pursue? Every day you scroll instead of work is a choice. The Stoics aren't here to comfort you. They're here to wake you up. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Read that again. You have the power to revoke your suffering at any moment. Not someday, not when things get better, right now. But here's where it gets really uncomfortable. We've become addicted to our own suffering. We tell the same stories about how hard life is, how unfair things are, how we can't catch a break. These stories become our identity. We meet friends for coffee and bond over complaints. We scroll through social media searching for proof that life is terrible. We've made suffering our comfort zone. The Stoics called this voluntary misery, pain we choose because it's familiar. You know what's scarier than staying in your painful situation? admitting you have the power to change it. Because once you admit you have power, you also accept responsibility. And responsibility is heavy. It's easier to blame the economy, your parents, your circumstances, your bad luck. Think about your worst day last week. How much of that suffering was the actual event? And how much was you replaying it, worrying about it, catastrophizing it? You took one painful moment and stretched it into hours, days, maybe weeks of suffering. You did that, not life. You. Here's the brutal truth the Stoics want you to face. You are both the prisoner and the guard. You've locked yourself in a cell made of excuses, and you're standing outside the door refusing to open it. Why? Because opening that door means admitting you could have left any time. It means facing all those wasted years. It means accepting that you've been complicit in your own suffering. But here's the beautiful part. The moment you accept this, everything changes. When you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself as the author of your choices, you reclaim your power. Every situation becomes a decision point. Every problem becomes an opportunity to practice strength. The Stoics didn't deny that bad things happen. They buried children. They faced exile. They died in poverty and violence. But they refused to add extra suffering on top of reality. They dealt with what was, not what they feared, imagined, or wished. Starting today, catch yourself in the act. When you feel that familiar suffering rising, ask yourself, is this happening to me, or am I doing this to myself? That question will change everything. Number 3, comfort is killing your potential. Every single day, you're making a choice between comfort and growth. And if you're honest, you're choosing comfort almost every time. That's why you're stuck. That's why nothing's changing. Because your body, your brain, your entire biological system is designed to keep you safe and comfortable. And growth? Growth happens in exactly the opposite place. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But most people read that and miss the real message. Strength isn't found in your cozy routine. It's not hiding in your comfort zone. It's forged in the places that scare you, challenge you, push you beyond what you think you can handle. Look at your daily life. You wake up and immediately reach for your phone. Comfort. You eat the same foods because they're familiar. Comfort. You avoid that difficult conversation. Comfort. You skip the workout. Comfort. You stay in the relationship that's going nowhere. Comfort. You remain at the job that's slowly killing your spirit. Comfort. Every single one of these choices is a vote for the person you currently are, not the person you could become. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" Do you see the genius in this? He wasn't waiting for life to get hard. He was making it hard on purpose. Why? Because when you voluntarily embrace discomfort, you remove its power over you. When you practice being uncomfortable, you realize discomfort won't kill you. In fact, it's where you come alive. Think about the best version of yourself, the one you imagine when you're lying in bed at night. That person isn't sitting on the couch binge-watching shows. They're not scrolling through social media for hours. They're not avoiding challenges. They're doing the hard things. They're having the difficult conversations. They're pushing through resistance. They're uncomfortable, and they're doing it anyway. Epictetus taught, "No great thing is created suddenly, but we live in a world selling us instant gratification. We want abs without the workouts, wealth without the work, relationships without vulnerability, success without the struggle. And this delusion is destroying us. We've become so addicted to ease that we've forgotten how to endure. This might sting, but it's the truth. Every day you choose comfort, you're choosing to stay exactly where you are. Your potential gets buried deeper under layers of convenience. Your greatness suffocates under the weight of what feels easy in the moment. You think you're buying peace, but you're really selling your future. And one day, you'll wake up and realize the price was far too high. You traded the life you could have built for the safety of a couch, a distraction, a temporary escape. The Stoics knew life would inevitably bring hardship, loss, pain, failure, rejection. So they trained themselves to handle it. They built their strength in advance. They chose voluntary discomfort so that involuntary discomfort wouldn't break them. What would happen if you started doing this today? What if you took cold showers to train your mind? What if you had that scary conversation you've been avoiding? What if you did the workout even when you don't feel like it? What if you started your business even though you might fail? What if you chose growth over comfort just once today? That version of you that you admire, that you dream about being, they live on the other side of discomfort. And the only way to meet them is to walk through the fire that stands between you. Write this down below to strengthen your mindset. I choose growth over comfort starting today. Number 4, your opinions are not facts, and they're destroying you. Here's something that's going to shake your entire worldview. Most of what you believe about yourself and your life is just an opinion you've repeated so many times that you've convinced yourself it's true. You're not actually incapable. You're not actually unlucky. You're not too old, too young, too broken, or too far behind. You just believe you are. Epictetus made this startlingly clear. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Stop and think about that. The thing holding you back isn't the obstacle itself. It's your interpretation of it. You've created a story about what things mean. And that story has become your reality. Someone criticizes you, and you tell yourself, I'm not good enough. But that's not a fact. That's an opinion. Someone succeeds where you failed, and you tell yourself, I don't have what it takes. Opinion. You try something new and it feels difficult, and you decide, I'm not naturally talented at this. Opinion. Every single limiting belief you carry is just a thought you gave too much power. The Stoics practiced radical objectivity. Marcus Aurelius would look at expensive purple robes and say, this is just sheep's wool dyed with shellfish blood. He looked at wine and said, this is just fermented grape juice. He wasn't being cynical. He was stripping away the judgments to see reality clearly. And when you remove the drama from your descriptions, you remove the power from your fears. Try this right now. Think about your biggest problem. Now describe it without emotional language, without interpretation, without a story, just the facts. I have $5,000 in debt, different from I'm drowning in debt and I'll never get out. I weigh 200 pounds. Different from, I'm fat and disgusting and no one will ever love me. Do you see it? You're adding suffering on top of neutral facts. Seneca watched this same pattern in Rome. He wrote, we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. People weren't suffering from their circumstances. They were suffering from their catastrophic interpretations of their circumstances. They were telling themselves horror stories, and then wondering why they felt terrible. But here's where this gets powerful. If your opinions created your suffering, then new opinions can create your freedom. That story about who you are and what you're capable of. You wrote it, which means you can rewrite it. The person who says, I'm terrible at public speaking, has decided a few bad experiences define their entire future. But what if they said instead, I just haven't practiced public speaking much yet? Different opinion, different reality, different future. The person who says, I always fail at relationships, has turned pain into a permanent identity. But what if they said, I'm learning what works and what doesn't in relationships? Same history, completely different meaning. This is what the Stoics mean by controlling your mind, not positive thinking, not denying reality, but recognizing your interpretations are not reality. They're just one possible way of seeing things, and if one interpretation makes you weak and stuck, while another makes you strong and free, why wouldn't you choose the one that serves you? Marcus Aurelius faced the same chaos you face. He reminded himself daily, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. He ruled an empire, and still had to check his own thoughts, because even emperors can confuse opinions with facts. Starting today, become aware of your opinions masquerading as facts. Catch yourself saying, I am, I can't, I always, I never. These are the sentences that build your prison. Question them, challenge them, rewrite them. Number 5. Stop performing your life for an audience that doesn't exist. You're exhausted, and you want to know why? Because you're living two lives, the one you're actually living, and the one you're pretending to live for everyone else. Every decision you make passes through a filter. What will people think? And that filter is destroying any chance you have at genuine happiness. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. Think about that. You claim to care about yourself, but you'll torture yourself to impress people who don't even think about you. Here's the truth. Most people aren't watching you. They're too busy worrying about who's watching them. You're performing for an audience that mostly exists in your head, that person you're trying so hard to impress. They're at home worried about what you think of them. Everyone is so consumed with their own anxiety about being judged that they barely notice you at all. The Stoics spoke about living according to nature, your true nature, not the character you think you're supposed to play, but you've been performing so long. You've forgotten who you are beneath the costume. You buy things to impress people. You take jobs for status instead of fulfillment. You post curated moments that make your life look better than it feels, and you wonder why you're exhausted. Performing is exhausting. Epictetus said it simply, if you wish to be a good reader, read. If you wish to be a good writer, write. Direct, honest, straightforward. Be what you want to be, not what you think looks impressive. But we've complicated this. We don't write because we love writing. We write because we want to be seen as writers. We don't exercise because it feels good. We exercise because we want admiration. Every choice becomes about external validation instead of internal truth. And this is killing you slowly. You're making life decisions based on what will look good on social media, what will sound impressive at reunions, what will make your parents proud, what will prove something to people who hurt you years ago. Seneca asked, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? Not the best appearance, not the most impressive life, the best, the truest, most authentic version of your life. At first, stopping the performance feels terrifying. People may be confused, they may judge you, they may say, you've changed. Good, you have changed. You've stopped being their puppet and started being yourself. Some people will leave. Let them. They weren't in love with your person, only with your performance. And then, something miraculous happens. You find freedom, real freedom, The kind that doesn't come from money, success, or approval. The freedom of knowing your life belongs to you, that your choices are yours, that you're living for an audience of one, yourself, and that audience finally approves. Marcus Aurelius had the entire empire watching him, every move public, every decision scrutinized, and still, he wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Even the emperor had to fight this battle. You don't have to perform anymore. You don't have to craft an image. You don't have to live up to expectations that were never yours. You can just be messy, imperfect, real, and the right people will love you not in spite of your authenticity, but because of it." Number 6. Death is not your enemy. Forgetting you're going to die is. You're living like you have forever. You're putting off conversations like there's infinite time. You're delaying dreams like death isn't coming for all of us. And this delusion, this comfortable lie that you'll always have tomorrow, is stealing the urgency from your life right now. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say, and think." He wasn't being dark or morbid. He was being honest. Every morning you wake up is a gift, one you didn't earn, and one you can't guarantee you'll receive again. And yet, you waste it scrolling, complaining, postponing, pretending you'll live forever. The Stoics practiced memento mori. Remember you will die. They kept skulls on their desks. They meditated on death daily, not because they were depressed, but because they understood something we've forgotten. Death is what makes life precious. When you truly accept that your time is limited, everything changes. Suddenly, petty arguments seem pointless. Grudges feel like burdens. Dreams can't wait. The people you love become urgent. Think about someone you've lost, a parent, a friend, anyone. Remember that last conversation you had with them? If you had known it was the last one, you would have said different things. You would have hugged them longer. You would have told them what they meant to you, but you didn't know. You thought there was more time. There's always more time until there isn't. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." So, look at your yesterday. How many hours did you spend on things that won't matter in a year? How much time did you give to worry, to fear, to mindless distraction? If yesterday was your last day, would you be proud of how you spent it? Death itself isn't the tragedy. The tragedy is dying with books unwritten, trips not taken, love unexpressed, potential untapped, apologies never given, risks never taken. It's the weight of "I could have but I didn't" crushing you when it's too late to change it. The Stoics knew death anxiety comes from life unlived. When you're living fully, aligned with your values, pursuing what matters, loving openly, growing constantly, death loses its sting. You're not afraid of dying because you're actually living. Epictetus taught, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." Stop talking about what you'll do someday. Stop planning the life you'll live when conditions are perfect. Stop waiting for permission or confidence or the right moment. You're dying right now. Every second you hear this, you're closer to your last breath. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. What would you do today if you knew you had 1 year left? 6 months? 1 month? Now here's the real question. Why aren't you doing that right now? What are you waiting for? More money, more time, more confidence. Those are just excuses your fear uses to keep you safe and small. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not act as if you had 10,000 years to live." But that's exactly how you're living. Like there's infinite time for apologies, infinite time for dreams, infinite time for becoming who you're meant to be. Starting today, let death be your advisor. When you're about to waste an hour, ask, Is this how I want to spend my limited time? When you're holding a grudge, ask, is this worth carrying to my grave? When you're delaying a dream, ask, what am I waiting for? Death is coming. Use that truth. Let it burn away everything that doesn't matter and illuminate everything that does. Claim this in the comments and own it. I will not waste the time I have left. Number 7. Your emotions don't control you. You're just too weak to control them. This is going to sting, but you need to hear it. You're not a victim of your emotions. You're complicit with them. Every time you say, I can't help how I feel, you're lying. Every time you let anger dictate your words, fear dictate your choices, or sadness dictate your days, you're choosing weakness over strength. Epictetus said it clearly. It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them. Your emotions don't just fall out of the sky like weather. They are the result of the thoughts you think, the stories you tell yourself, the judgments you make. And if you created them, you can control them. But we've built a culture on the opposite idea. We say, I was so angry I couldn't control myself, as if anger is some external force that possessed you. We say, I'm too anxious to do that, as if anxiety is a wall made of steel instead of a thought in your head. We've handed our emotions godlike power and then wondered why we feel powerless. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He wasn't denying his emotions. He was refusing to be ruled by them. Think about the last time you were angry, really angry. What actually happened? Someone said something, or did something. You interpreted it as wrong, or unfair, or disrespectful. You told yourself a story about what it meant, and then you felt angry. The emotion came last, not first, which means you had multiple decision points where you could have chosen differently. The Stoics practiced what they called the discipline of assent, the practice of pausing between stimulus and response. Someone insults you. That's the stimulus. Before you react, you pause. You examine your thoughts. You ask, is this worth my peace? Is this worth my dignity? Is this person's opinion worth my anger? And only then you choose your response. Seneca watched people destroy their lives over momentary emotions. He wrote, the greatest remedy for anger is delay, not suppression, not pretending you don't feel it, but refusing to act on it immediately, giving yourself space to choose instead of being a slave to reaction. But most people don't want to hear this because it requires effort. It's easier to blame your emotions. I'm just an anxious person. I have anger issues. I'm naturally pessimistic. Nah, those are excuses. You're not just anxious. You're rehearsing anxiety with your thoughts. You don't have anger issues. You're indulging anger instead of mastering it. Every time you let your emotions control you, you're choosing short-term relief over long-term dignity. You snap at someone because it feels good for a moment. You avoid challenges because fear feels safer than growth. You stay in bed all day because surrendering to sadness feels easier than fighting it. The Stoics never said emotions are bad. Fear, anger, sadness, these are human. But just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to obey it. You can feel fear and act with courage. You can feel anger and respond with wisdom. You can feel sadness and still show up for life. This is what separates the strong from the weak. Not the absence of emotion, but the refusal to be controlled by it. The strong person feels the same fear the weak person feels. They just don't let it make their decisions. Starting today, stop saying I can't help it. You can. Stop saying that's just how I am. You're choosing to be that way. Take responsibility for your internal world, the same way you take responsibility for your external actions. Put this in the comments if it speaks to your soul. I feel my emotions, but I control my actions. Number 8. You're obsessed with things you can't control, and it's making you miserable. Here's why you're exhausted, frustrated, constantly disappointed. You're spending all your energy trying to control things that were never yours to control. You're trying to control what people think of you, how the world treats you, what happens tomorrow, what happened yesterday. And this futile battle is destroying your peace. Epictetus gave us the most important distinction in all of Stoic philosophy. Some things are within our power, while others are not. That's it. That's the key to everything. He then lists what's in your control: your opinions, your choices, your desires, your aversions. Basically, your inner world. Everything else? Not your problem. But you don't live this way. You wake up worried about the weather. You stress about the economy. You lose sleep over what your neighbor thinks. You replay conversations, trying to change what someone said. You worry about getting sick, getting old, getting rejected. You're trying to control the entire universe, and the universe doesn't care about your plans. Marcus Aurelius, who had actual power over an empire, still reminded himself daily, "Accept whatever comes to you, woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs." Even he couldn't control most of what happened. Plagues came, enemies attacked, people he trusted betrayed him, and his response? Accept it, and focus on what he could control, his response. Think about how much energy you waste on things outside your control. You can't control if you get the job, but you waste energy worrying instead of preparing the best application you can. You can't control if someone loves you back, but you waste energy trying to manipulate their feelings instead of being genuinely yourself. You can't control the past, but you waste energy replaying it, wishing it were different. Seneca watched people torture themselves this way. He wrote, "There are more things likely to frighten us than there are to crush us. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." You're suffering over things that haven't happened, might not happen, and if they do happen, might not be as bad as you imagine. You're destroying your present moment, worrying about a future you can't control. Here's the liberation the Stoics offer. When you stop trying to control what you can't control, you suddenly have all this energy to focus on what you can. You can't control if people like you, but you can control being a person worth knowing. You can't control the outcome, but you can control the effort. You can't control what life throws at you, but you can control who you become in response. This doesn't mean giving up or being passive. It means directing your power where it actually matters. The person who accepts they can't control the weather doesn't sit in the rain complaining. They get an umbrella. They focus on what they can do, not what they wish were different. Think about your biggest source of stress right now. I guarantee it's something outside your control. You're stressed about what might happen, what someone might think, what could go wrong, and all that stress. It's not changing anything except your blood pressure and your peace of mind. The Stoics practiced what they called the dichotomy of control. Before reacting to anything, they'd ask, "Is this within my control or not?" If not, they'd let it go immediately. No argument with reality, no wishing it were different, just acceptance and redirection of energy toward what they could actually influence. Your boss's mood? Not your control. Your reaction to your boss's mood? Completely your control. The traffic? Not your control. Whether you let traffic ruin your day? Your control. Whether someone respects you? Not your control. whether you respect yourself and live according to your values, your control. This is where real power lives, not in controlling the world, but in mastering yourself. When you stop fighting reality and start working with it, everything becomes easier, not because life gets easier, but because you stop making it harder than it needs to be. Number 9. Your comfort zone is a slow death. You think you're living, but you're just existing. You think you're being safe, but you're actually dying slowly, one comfortable choice at a time. Every day you choose the familiar over the challenging. You're choosing to remain exactly who you are, instead of becoming who you could be. Marcus Aurelius understood this completely. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present," but he didn't mean hide in your comfort zone. He meant fully engage with what's in front of you, including, especially, the things that scare you. He knew growth only happens at the edge of your capabilities, not in the middle of your comfort. Here's the truth you don't want to face. Your comfort zone is shrinking. Every time you avoid something difficult, the zone gets smaller. You avoid one social situation, and the next one becomes scarier. You skip one workout, and getting back becomes harder. You delay one difficult conversation, and speaking up becomes more impossible. Your comfort zone isn't protecting you, it's imprisoning you. The Stoics believed in voluntary hardship, deliberately choosing difficulty to build strength. Seneca would regularly practice poverty, sleeping on hard surfaces, eating simple food. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" Why would someone wealthy do this? Because he understood that comfort makes you fragile. When you only experience ease, you become terrified of difficulty. When you only know plenty, you become paralyzed by the fear of loss. When you only stay comfortable, you lose your ability to handle discomfort, and life is full of unavoidable discomfort. Think about what you're avoiding right now. That project you're procrastinating, that conversation you need to have, that risk you're too scared to take, that habit you know you need to change. What's stopping you? Fear. And what's feeding that fear? Your commitment to staying comfortable. Epictetus said, "Difficulties are things that show what men are." You don't discover who you are in comfortable moments. You discover it when you're challenged, when you're scared, when you're pushed beyond what you think you can handle. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're choosing to never meet the strongest version of yourself. Your ancestors didn't have comfort zones. They couldn't afford them. They faced cold, hunger, predators, uncertainty every single day, and that hardship forged them into survivors. Now we have climate control, food delivery, entertainment on demand, and we're weaker than ever, not physically weak, mentally and emotionally weak, unable to tolerate the slightest discomfort without falling apart. Here's what happens when you start deliberately choosing discomfort. At first, it's terrible. That cold shower is shocking, that difficult conversation is awkward, that workout is painful, that creative project exposes you to judgment. But then something shifts. You realize discomfort doesn't kill you. You realize you're stronger than you thought. You realize that the feeling of growth is better than the feeling of comfort. The Stoics knew life would inevitably bring hardship, loss, failure, pain, rejection. They couldn't prevent it, but they could prepare for it. They could build their strength in advance by voluntarily embracing difficulty. They could shrink the gap between their comfort zone and reality. What would your life look like if you stopped avoiding discomfort? What if you did the hard thing first, every day? What if you sought out challenges instead of hiding from them? What if you measured your day, not by how comfortable it was, but by how much you grew? That person you admire, the one who's fit, successful, confident, living their dreams. They didn't get there by staying comfortable. They got there by doing uncomfortable things, until those things became comfortable, and then finding new uncomfortable things to tackle. Your comfort zone is not your friend. It's a beautiful prison where dreams go to die, and you're choosing it every single day. Number 10. You're waiting for motivation, but discipline is what you actually need. Here's the lie you've been sold. Wait until you feel motivated, and then you'll act. Wait until you're inspired, and then you'll create. Wait until you're confident, and then you'll take the leap. And while you're waiting for these magical feelings to arrive, your life is passing you by. Years are disappearing. Dreams are dying. Potential is rotting. Marcus Aurelius woke up every day to rule an empire. Do you think he felt motivated every morning? Nah. He wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do?" He didn't wait for motivation. He reminded himself of his duty and got up anyway. The Stoics understood something we've forgotten. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. Some days you feel motivated, most days you don't. If you only act when you feel like it, you'll accomplish almost nothing. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. That's the difference between people who achieve their goals and people who just dream about them. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Notice the order. First, decide who you want to be, then do what that person does. Not when you feel like it, but because it's who you've decided to be. The disciplined person isn't more motivated than you. They've just committed to showing up, regardless of motivation. Think about every goal you've abandoned, every New Year's resolution that lasted 3 weeks, every promise you made to yourself that you broke. What happened? You started motivated, and when that motivation faded, you quit. You thought motivation was the fuel, but motivation is just the spark. Discipline is the fuel that keeps you going when the spark is long gone. Seneca watched people wait their entire lives for the right moment, the right feeling, the perfect conditions. He wrote, "While we wait for life, life passes." You're waiting to feel like working out, waiting to feel like starting the business, waiting to feel like having the hard conversation, waiting to feel like changing. And while you wait, nothing changes. Here's what discipline actually looks like. It's writing when you don't feel inspired. It's exercising when you're tired. It's being kind when you're angry. It's showing up when you want to hide. It's doing the work when every part of you wants to scroll, sleep, or quit. It's choosing who you want to become over how you currently feel. The Stoics built discipline through daily practice. They didn't wait for motivation to be virtuous. They practiced virtue until it became automatic. They didn't wait to feel brave. They acted bravely until courage became their character. They understood that you become what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally feel like doing. This is why most people fail. They treat discipline like a feeling, something that happens to them. "I'm just not a disciplined person," they say, as if discipline is a genetic trait you're born with. Nah. Discipline is a skill you build through practice. Every time you do something you don't feel like doing, you're building that skill. Every time you wait for motivation, you're weakening it. What if you stopped waiting? What if you just decided, this is who I am now. I'm someone who shows up. I'm someone who does the work. I'm someone who keeps promises to themselves. Not when you feel like it, not when it's easy. Always. That decision, that commitment, is what separates the people who change their lives from the people who just think about it. Echo this in the comments to remind yourself daily. I don't wait for motivation. I build discipline daily. You've just encountered 10 brutal truths. Truths that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. These aren't comfortable ideas. They're not supposed to be. Comfort is what got you stuck in the first place. These Stoic principles are designed to shake you awake, to force you to look at the gap between who you are and who you could be. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, that's what it all comes down to." You can watch this video, nod along, feel inspired for 20 minutes, and then go right back to your old life. Or you can decide that today, right now, is the day. Everything changes. The Stoics didn't write their philosophy for scholars or academics. They wrote it for people like you, people struggling with fear, procrastination, self-doubt, wasted potential. They wrote it for people capable of more, but trapped by their own limitations. Every single one of these rules requires action. Not someday action. Not when I'm ready action. Today action. Stop waiting for permission and become yourself. Accept that you're creating most of your own suffering and choose differently. Embrace discomfort instead of hiding from it. Control your emotions instead of being controlled by them. Focus only on what you can actually influence. Remember, death is coming, and let that urgency fuel your life. Seneca's final words before his forced suicide were calm and dignified. Why? Because he had lived fully, nothing left undone, no words left unsaid, no potential left untapped. That's what living by Stoic principles gives you. Not a perfect life, but a life fully lived. Not a life without problems, but a life where you rise to meet them. So, here's your choice. Close this video and forget everything you heard, or commit right now to implementing even one of these principles today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Pick one rule that hit you hardest and take action in the next hour. If this video gave you what you needed to hear, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me which rule you're committing to first. Share this with someone who needs to wake up, and subscribe to this channel, because your transformation doesn't end here. This is just the beginning. Your life is waiting. Stop wasting it. Seal this in the comments to make it real. Today I begin living. No more wasted years.